Hi, Ken. Thanks for doing this. I'll ask a couple of questions here. Just a little bit of a follow-up on Clefbaum as well. With this being sort of, it seems like an ongoing thing, and you use the word aggravated for him, how he played last season. I mean, right after the season ended in August, was there discussion about something being done or potential surgery? I'm just wondering about, sort of the timing and how things have been considered along the way.
I think, Reed, I don't think it's that simple. I know where you're going. The question is, if he needs it, why doesn't he have surgery and get it? Why wait 2 months and you've lost 2 months? And if it was that easy, it would be we would make those decisions, or he would make those decisions. It's not that easy. I think it's not. I don't know if he plays with some pain, and he needs to determine, obviously in February, we shut him down for, I think he missed 9 games. He went to see a specialist, a shoulder specialist. And again, it's not cut and dried. It's not just simple that you do have surgery, or you don't have surgery. It's not that simple. So I think that Clef needs to make a decision based upon the information that he's getting, number one, from his body, and number two, from the doctors. I know he's seen a couple of shoulder people as to how he wants to proceed. In past years, he's obviously season has ended, and there's been a long, an off season for it to get better, and he comes back and he plays. But as he goes forward each year, you're getting the body's another year older, your body's beat up or battered up a little bit more. So I think that he has to decide how he wants to proceed. And again, I certainly, from the club's perspective, from the team's perspective, would you like to have an answer? Yeah, but I also think I got to respect that this is number one, he's an important player on the team, but he's also a person that has to make a decision that is going to be very important to him going forward in his life. So I have to respect that.
Thanks for that. And my other question would be, when you look at that 14th pick, is there a skill set or a personality characteristic, or even a position that you're going to prioritize there?
I guess I would say to you, based upon, if you had to handicap it today, I don't see us drafting a defenseman, given all the defensemen that we've got. But if we've got somebody, we've got our list, Tyler Wright's been here since last Wednesday, our chief scout, Bob Green. They've been at it every day with Justin Mahi on analytics and looking at tape and going over their lists, and had Zoom calls with our scouts. They're going to have their, ranking 1 to 14. If we got a defenseman high on our list and he slides to 14, then we'll make that decision as we start getting to 11 and 12. We're having those conversations yesterday and today and tomorrow morning. But I would see us drafting, I would see us not drafting a defenseman if you handicapped it. What are we looking for? I think, you obviously when you're picking 14, you're looking for some upside potential. Where do you think that they can cap out? Skating, hockey sense, competitiveness. If you're, what do they bring? Can they score? Do they check? Can they center playmaking, center iceman? But compete, skate. I don't think. You look at Tampa Bay. My idea in team building is you like to, on the back end, you'd like to have some size, but out of 7 defensemen, you can have a couple of what you would call undersized defensemen, but you do need some length on the back end. There's situations during a season, matchups, penalty killing, protecting a 1-goal lead in a game where the more length, the size to box out, it's important in winning, but certainly you need some undersized defensemen that can transport the puck and zip the puck up. And I think up front, it's about you need some size, but I don't think you need to have 14 forwards that are all big. You want competitive people. You need lots of different dimensions when you build a hockey team.
Next question to Steve Wino. Steve, as soon as your microphone is active, you can go ahead. Go ahead.
Thanks, Andre. Hey, Ken. I'm curious, what's the chatter like around GMs right now? Is there a lot of trade talk, and kind of what do you expect that to kind of develop into the next few days, given the flat cap?
Well, I mean, personally, 30 teams. I can't tell you I've talked to 30, but I've probably talked to 25 out of the 30 teams in your own division that you're in the same spot. You're competing. You touch base, but for the most part, it's usually not a fit. What's the chatter like? I think, there's lots of chatter, lots of talk. I'm going to talk to a number of managers again today and tomorrow morning. And then, I think once we get to, I think that we're in an unknown here, I think, but, historically, the draft weekend, now this is Tuesday, Wednesday, but the draft weekend, which is at the end of June, Friday, Saturday, whatever trades you got usually come out, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So today, tomorrow, Wednesday, I think would be sort of the expectation that there's going to be some trades, maybe Thursday. And then once you get into free agency on Friday, people are trying to fill their needs with free agency versus trades. So I think I would expect that whatever trades will happen in the league would happen between today and Thursday. And then you'd go into Friday, and I think, free agency will go on, and then maybe somewhere after that, if somebody has missed out on filling a need, maybe there's going to be some trades again down the road, because with the flat cap, as you mentioned, I know that there's many teams are challenged, and some teams are looking to get down and under. We don't have to get down and under, but for the most part on a trade, we're probably dollar in, dollar out thereabouts. So that's my expectations over the next 10 days.
What's that unknown like going into free agency? Obviously, usually you have this interview period, and usually you kind of know the cap's going up a little bit. How much of an unknown or uncertainty is there, not knowing kind of what the revenues are going to look like with the pandemic the next couple of years?
Well, I mean, obviously the revenues, I mean, it's, I think you're talking about, the competitiveness of the NHL. And I think, certainly the revenues in escrow, I'm dealing with a cap. So my expectations are the cap are going to be 81.5 this year, and probably next year, and maybe the year after. And I don't know, maybe the year after, but basically a flat cap for the foreseeable future. It's an unknown for everybody. I think that's why you have all these, my director of pro scouting, Archie Henderson, came in to town here on Saturday, met with him yesterday for a few hours. Last week we had a Zoom call for, I think, Monday to Friday with all our pro scouts. Dave Tippett was on. We had our Zoom call with our pro scouts in May. That's why you do all the preparation. And that's why you work the phones. And, a question earlier was about, trading up or trading back. Those decisions have been discussed in advance, so that when the draft is ongoing tomorrow and the phone rings and somebody calls and wants to, the odd call is a surprise, but most of those calls have been discussed in advance and saying, if something's there, would you do this, and what's it going to take? So obviously we've got just a few minutes when we make our pick. So it's the same thing heading into free agency. You do all your work, you do all your planning, you do all your research, and you're talking and internal talking. And then when it comes time to make a decision, all the information you've gathered, your instincts, for me, I guess my experience ultimately leads you to making a decision.
Next question, we'll go to Kevin McGran. Kevin, as soon as your microphone's active, and go ahead.
Thanks, Andre. Thanks, Ken. Got a couple of questions here. One sort of follows up on that, just about free agency in general, not asking to give away your own strategies, but where do you think the free agent market is going to go? Do you think we'll see a lot of short-term deals, maybe, or longer-term but backloaded deals because of the flat cap and the uncertainty?
I think, it's supply and demand. I think the demand I think lots of players are going to do short-term deals. But I think there are going to be some long-term deals. Again, it's depending on, those people that are in demand on Friday are going to, and have multiple teams after them, are going to be able to use that leverage, I guess, to get some length to their contract. But then I think that, I would expect those contracts would probably be Friday, Saturday. There's no interview period now, so last year there was an 8-day interview period, and I think that as you got to when the bell struck, there was just a lot of deals announced. Well, in some cases now players are going to want to take a little bit of time to talk to some teams, so I would expect that there's a possibility free agency might move a little slower. I would expect that there's going to be some long-term deals. Again, it's an 81.5 cap. You know the cap, and if you can fit the cap number in, and you want the player on free agency, if you want to land a player and he's in demand, you got to do one of two things, or few things. Number one, probably got to give longer term than you want, or you got to give a higher cap than you want. Or if you've got a team that's ready to, does somebody want to go back home and play in front of their family and friends? Do they want to play in a team that they think can is a really odds-on favorite to win the Stanley Cup, and they want to have a chance to win the Stanley Cup? But basically, there's a few things that need to happen on free agency, and longer term than you'd like, and maybe a higher cap than you'd like if you want to add the player, are part of that process.
And thanks. As a follow, just about the draft tomorrow, more or less, these players that are going to get drafted, from a manager's point of view, you've got to still develop them. But this is going to be a very strange year to develop players if some of them can't even play. What's your strategy going to be to bring players along, or what can you do in a world of uncertainty with the pandemic in terms of even getting guys on the ice?
Well, I mean, obviously these guys, one of the things that we've done here prior to today was, I think we've got, 10 or 15 Oiler players playing in Europe. So we got them, we found places for Bouchard's playing in Europe, and Broberg's in Europe, and Samorukov and Benson and McLeod. And so, now we're gonna acquire some players through the draft. I would think that the 14th pick in the draft now, whether, I don't know if he's a European, he might be playing. If we draft a European, he might be already playing. If he's a North American, whether he's in college or in junior, we'll assess once we make the pick, in talking to his agent, and how we go forward. So I mean, we're all in a real unknown. So let's see who we pick. Let's see where he's from. If we pick a European, like I said, he's probably playing in the league. And if we pick a North American, then when are the junior leagues going to start? When are the colleges going to start? We'll have to decide that on the fly.
Next question to Mark Spector, Sportsnet.ca. Go ahead, Mark.
Ken, when we started this process, a goaltender and a third line center were seemingly your priorities. Are they still?
Yeah, I would say so.
And do you feel like, let me say this, you're only this is only your second year with this team, and not many guys walk into a team that and turn it around in 2 years. We get that, but you've also got a McDavid at 23 and Draisaitl at 24, and a high expectations here. Do you conduct yourself a little differently as a GM, knowing that every year that passes is another year of, two pretty good players getting older? How much does having those two guys influence how you act as a GM?
First time I ever heard someone 23 being called older, but I'll go with it. Connor, I think, is 23. Mark, I think, Tampa Bay just won, and there was a number 1 overall pick on there, and Steven Stamkos. I don't know how many years he's been in the National Hockey League. I think it's hard to win the Stanley Cup. I think my goal is, it was a long time in Detroit, and obviously I've come here, and I think I stated the goals when I got the job here in Edmonton, May 6th. You need multiple chances. What do I mean by multiple chances? You got to be in the playoffs every year, and over a 10-year period, you'd like to be in 10 years, but you'd like to be in 7 or 8. If you got a good program, you build a good program, and then you got to stick with it. 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 And this year was, I thought, on March the 12th, we were 11 games to go. I thought if we could win 4, go 500 down the stretch, we were going to play our way into a playoff series, into the playoffs, and all of a sudden you go from 31 to 16 teams, and then away you go. And obviously then it went into a 24 team tournament, and it went into August, and and there's so the goal for 2021 is to build a team that we think is good enough on opening day if everything goes good, and you got some things don't go good, but you got enough depth built in that you can play your way into a playoffs. And I thought, the Chicago series, some of these players here played in the Anaheim series in San Jose 3 years ago, and then they missed for a couple. But you want to be in the playoffs every year. So we're going to try to make some moves to make. You can't guarantee anything. Last year, a year ago, the 2 teams that won were number 1 seed in the West and number 1 seed in the East. In the first round of the playoffs combined, they won 1 playoff game. It was Calgary and Tampa Bay, and they're out. So there are no guarantees. You can't build a team that you just know is going to win the Stanley Cup. You got to play your way into the tournament, and you got to stick with it. You got to stick with it. And you got to learn from your experiences, and then you make tweaks to your team. And we're going to try to make some tweaks here over the next during this off season. And some of the tweaks, some of the development has to be internal. It's got to be some young people that grow on your team, that come through the system, make your team. That was Yamamoto last year, and Bear, and Caleb Jones is in there. And can we have 1 or 2 of these kids, young players, start to push their way onto our team? And then where do Bear and Jones and Yamamoto go, along with whatever trades or free agent signings we do, and keep trying to build the program and stick with it. So I don't look at it like, obviously we got to win the Stanley Cup in 2021. We got to get in the tournament. We got to play our way over an 82 game schedule, or however long the schedule is. We got to play our way into the Stanley Cup playoffs, and then you try to win that series. And every time you win a series, it gets harder and harder and harder, because you're going from 16 to 8 to 4 to 2. So certainly I understand. We've got some young people here that are incredibly talented. Some of the best young players in the game. I thought we made good progress last year. The previous year they were 27th in overall points. This year we went to 12th in overall points. We've had this on past calls. Now, if you want to hang on to 12th, we don't want to fall backwards. And every time you try to go another little from 12th to 10th to 8th to 6th, it's getting harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. So, but part of that's internal. Part of that is experience of being in those games and those playoff series, and that's why the goal for me in 2021 is to play our way into the playoffs and try again.
You have a follow-up, Mark?
I would say, do you feel like you're certainly zeroing in on a goaltending issue, Ken? Is there do you have a better feeling about a free agent market or a trade market with goalies? Do you have to just play them both out? Where's your goalie come from, do you think?
Probably free agency, Mark. I think, I would say to you, probably free agency. Now, it appears now things, somebody can sign or something can happen, but it appears that there's going to be a lot of goalie movement between now and this time next week and the next week. There's some teams that have signed some goalies, and they've calls them coming. Teams are looking to trade some goalies. There's looks like there's going to be goalies on the unrestricted free agent market. So I would anticipate that we're going to end up with a goalie. We are going to end up with a goalie. I'm going to sign somebody, and maybe a number 3 as well. So we are going to have a goalie in place in the next week. I would anticipate through free agency.
Next question to Rob Tichkowski, Post Media. Go ahead, Rob.
Thanks. Hi, Ken. You have obviously a number of areas that you want to address in this offseason, and these things obviously cost money. So how big an impact is the flat cap and your proximity to it going to be in allowing you to do what you need to do this offseason?
Rob, it's huge, but there's 20 teams like us. So, it's not like we're on a flat cap and 20 other teams have got this, they got 10 more million to spend. I mean, you just got to go to cap friendly, make and go. You can go team by team and look at the players that teams have to sign, restricteds, and then so it's going to have a huge impact, but it's going to have a huge impact on many teams that we're competing against. Some teams, and then you got to, some teams might have not a cap. Maybe they might have a budget. Some teams might be in a situation where it's not a cap, it's not a budget, but they want to rebuild and they want to go in they want to make some decisions. So I think that we're tight, but there's lots of teams like us.
Looking at Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, is that something you want to address sooner rather than later? And how does he fit into your budget?
Nuge is a really important player on our team. My goal is hopefully to have Nuge here for a long time. Find a solution on an extension. Whether it takes this week or whether we go into the season and he's on the last year of a contract and deal with it down the road. There's, I've had some conversations with his agent. There's so many unknowns, flat cap. How long is it going to be a flat cap? When's it going to start to move? So there's a lot of unknown, but certainly he's a priority. He's a really good player. He's a really important player. He's good defensively. He can play center, but he also is very comfortable on left wing. He can play on a left wing on Connor's line. He can play on a left wing with Leon. You can move Leon up and play with Connor, and he can go into the 2-hole. He's versatile. He's an important player for us.
Next question to Jim Matheson from Post Media. Jim, as soon as your microphone's active, you can go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Ken, a couple of questions. What are you going to do with Athanasio and Matt Benning? Are you qualifying both?
I know what I'm doing. Obviously, we got till Wednesday. I've talked to both of their agents, so we'll see. But I know what I'm doing.
And the goaltending, if you get a goaltender and you spend a lot of money on term and dollars, you already have a goalie making $4.5 million. So are you leaning more to getting somebody of Koskinen's caliber or just getting another backup like Mike, who is older and
I'm open to either way, Jim. I know first off, I thought our goaltending was, over 71 games last year, I thought our goaltending was good. Was a positive. It was, we made real progress, and they were a big part of it. I thought that Tippett and Justin Schwartz, our goalie coach, did a great job in keeping. I think they both played exactly the same amount of games when it was all over, basically within a game or two. They were fresh, and I thought that was a real strength of our team. I thought we got into the playoffs, and I didn't think we played, goaltending defensively. I didn't think we played anywhere near as well as we were capable of, and as we needed to be to beat Chicago. So I'm looking at both scenarios. Koski had a 918 or 917 save percentage. He played good. So I'm looking at every option, and we've had many conversations. Obviously, it's a real, I've talked to Mike Smith's agent. I told him, going back a month ago, maybe, after we got out of the bubble, some point in time, that I felt that we needed to get into the open market. But Mike, I'm told, wants to play again. So we'll, so we're ready. We've had many conversations, internal conversations about the position. Obviously, it's a really important position for every team. I thought, if you wanted me to evaluate Koskinen, I thought he played very good for us last year over the 71 game season. I thought we had very good goaltending between Koskinen and Mike Smith. I thought it was a strength of our team. But I do think I want to get into Friday and look at the marketplace before we make a decision. But we've had lots of conversations. We know what we'd like to. We could go in either direction. We can go in either direction, any direction.
Thanks, Ken. Given our time, we'll take 3 more questions. We have 3 people lined up. We'd ask you to limit yourself to 1 question, and then we'll be done. Thank you very much. Next question will go to Ashley Charge from News Source. Go ahead, Ashley, as soon as your microphone's active.
Hi, Ken. Ken, how different is this draft going to be, considering you're in Edmonton instead of being at the rink, where you'll be able to go over and talk to a GM? How different is this from you for all the years you've been at drafts?
Well, it's going to be very different, Ashley. Obviously, part of the excitement of draft day is, you're at all those tables and you've got all the organizations and the general managers, and you can, you've got a phone at your desk, and you can wander the floor, and you bump into people, and bumping into people creates talk, or you can go over and you can carry on a conversation. So now you got to be, so it's going to be different. Obviously, I know the NHL is going to do everything they can to try to make the day as special as they can for the young players that are going to be selected. It's a great day. The players have been, and their families have been thinking about this day for, probably a number of years, as they've, gone through bantam drafts and midgets and played junior hockey and college hockey and played in Europe. So hopefully we can make this a special day for the young players and their families. And, but certainly it's going to be much different not being having everybody in one location.
Next question to Adam Cook. Adam, as soon as your microphone's active, you should ask your question. Go ahead.
Hi, Ken. You had reportedly expressed some optimism on the Jesse Puljujarvi front there a few days ago. I wonder if anything has changed on his situation. What can you tell us about that?
Basically, last week, we had a Zoom call, Dave Tippett and myself, with his agent Marcus Leto and Jesse. We had a Zoom call with them in July, before we went into, when we were in phase 3 here in training camp. And then, I've had a number of conversations with his agent Marcus Leto through, July and in August, and then it went, and then we lost out, and then we picked up our conversation about early September. Marcus and I have had a number of conversations. Again, a Zoom call late last week. We're going to talk here, plan to talk today or tomorrow. So we'll see. What goes on in the Zoom calls? It's basically Dave Tippett and I walking Jesse and Marcus through where we see him on our team. Obviously, it's a new manager, it's a new coach, it's a new opportunity, and part of it, I guess, would be what you'd call relationship building. Obviously, he made a decision a year ago that he, for whatever reason, for his reasons, he didn't want to sign with the Oilers for 1920, and I think last year was a good year for him. He played in the Finnish league. He was in the top 5 in scoring. He played on the national team. He should feel good about himself. He had a really good year, and I know his goal is to get back to the National Hockey League and play in the best league in the world. So those are what we're talking about. The relationship, where we see him fit in, what's his role, but certainly at the same time, getting them to understand that it's pro hockey and we're in no position to make guarantees you're going to do this and do that. It's pro hockey is competitive but certainly if he comes back and joins the Oilers, we need more good players. We want to, and he's a good young player. He was drafted 4th overall and he's gone back last year. He's 22 years of age. He's not young, but he's not old by any stretch of the imagination. So there's tremendous opportunity here and we'll see. I mean, I'm expect to talk today and tomorrow, and then we'll see where it goes. But I think we've had positive. I'd like to think that from our perspective, the club's perspective, I think we've had positive conversation. I seem to. Marcus Leto seems to indicate to me that they've been positive. So we'll see where we go.
We'll take 2 more questions. Questions from Jason Greger and Jim Matheson. Jason, go ahead.
Ken, do you expect to keep your 3rd round pick from that Neil trade? And then conversely, were you ever serious on the Oliver Ekman-Larsson rumors that were out there that you guys were heavily involved in that?
The pick, Jason, the 3rd round pick for Lucic, we have until the start of the 3rd round to make a decision. So I would say to you today, we're probably looking at using the pick. But why not use as much time as you can? We'll probably make the decision once the draft gets started tomorrow, sometime or on Wednesday. Get through tomorrow night, and then probably let them know before we get started on Wednesday. I would say to you, we're leaning towards using it, but I'm going to decide probably Wednesday morning. As far as rumors on players that belong to other teams, obviously I can't comment on rumors. I would say to you, it's rumor season. This is the time of the year when there's rumors, and some rumors have some truth to them. Lots of rumors are just somebody's making up and playing general manager at home. So, but I can't comment on somebody else's players.
Final question to Jim Matheson. Jim, as soon as your microphone's active, you can ask your question. Go ahead.
Getting back to Athanasiou, how do you think he played after the trade?
Well, I was hoping he would have a bigger impact. I think the first night in Anaheim, didn't he have a goal assist and Ennis, and we won the game 4-3 or something, or it was 3-3 went into overtime. I thought that, and then I was at the next game or the game after. I think he got injured and missed a couple of games. I would say that in the regular season after we acquired him, he didn't have as big as an impact or as I was hoping. I thought in the Chicago series, I thought he played very good in games 3 and 4. In game 4, I think he hit the crossbar and he had some chances. A 2-on-1, he tried to pass across. He had some chances. He had some odd man rush chances. I thought he was starting to come. So that's how I thought he played. Certainly, I was hoping for that he would contribute more offensively. I think he played 13 games for us. I know he scored a goal the first night. It might be the only goal he scored. So certainly, I was hoping for more.